guys, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, my name is Brenna. I am Brenna M Co. If you are new here, you would not know this, but I do a ton of markets during the year. And after every single year before the new year markets start, I like to do a little market recap. So in this video, I'm going to go over every single market that I did, the expenses, how much I made. So I will be telling you the actual amount of what I made at this craft fair. And so a little disclaimer, if you do not want to hear about that, I highly suggest clicking off this video. I also go over kind of what the craft fair was like, what my hourly wage was, my total in sales for the entire year at craft fairs. And if you didn't know this already, I have a little book that I have that says a market recap on it, and every single market I always like to write down which craft fair it is, so like the first, second, third, whatever, and then the name of the market, the dates of it, times, and then how much I made, and any expenses that I may have had. We will be going over every single market and whether I thought it was worth it or not, and if I am potentially doing it this year. I actually just got done watching my 2023 market recap, and I mentioned in that video how I was going to be scaling back a bit that year because I had a lot going on, because I got married last fall and I was planning a wedding, and I just told myself that I was going to take a couple off, but that did not happen. If anything, I believe I like doubled how many I did, and this year I'm doing either the same amount or more. I'm just waiting to hear back from a couple of events. Without further ado, let's get into the market recap for 2024. I will be referencing this book, so if you see me looking at it, that's because I can't memorize all of these numbers, okay? So for 2024, our first market was actually the Minot Big One. It was on April 12th to the 13th, and I had a double booth at this one. I typically always have a double booth, and it costed me $350. The total time spent at the craft fair was 18 hours, and we ended up making $4,018.78, which makes our hourly wage $223.27. We did have expenses for this one, obviously, and that came to $606.39. I think that this one was definitely worth it because our hourly wage was over $200. Typically for multiple day events, I prefer our hourly wage to be over $200, and you have to keep in mind kind of what I sell. I sell a lot of like higher priced items, and so the hourly wage, you kind of had to have it be high. Now if I was selling smaller items that weren't priced a little bit higher, then I feel like $100 an hour is pretty good for that. I will actually be doing this one this year again. I really like the Big One craft shows. They have 4 a year. There's 3 in the fall, 1 in spring, and typically I do really good at them, so I don't plan on not attending this one for a while. Now we had about 2 months off until our second one, which was the West Fargo Street Fair. This is a one-day event, and it was held on June 15th. I had a double booth at this one, and it was only $200, which is really good pricing, especially for a double booth in my area. Typically you'll see my like booth pricing range from $300 to $500. Some of them they're like even more because they're multiple day, like 3-day events, but this one was actually pretty good. I spent a total of 5 hours at this one, and we ended up making $1,075.12, which makes our hourly $215.02. So like I said earlier, whenever I make at least $200 or more an hour, I feel like it was a good craft fair. And don't get me wrong, like this one was, but it was so windy. It was absolutely crazy. I think I had 1 rack up because the rest just kept falling over. And the reason why I went down to 1 rack is because where it's held, it's on the street, and it's literally just like a tunnel for wind. And I just had to try and weigh down a single rack with all my apparel on it, and pretty much halfway through the day my booth wasn't even like a double booth anymore. It was down to a single. I just wasn't using the other side. I actually will not be attending this one this year because of the wind conditions. I truly just cannot do that to myself, but I will be attending it as a customer. Number 3 on the year was our first Night of Bazaar. This is a new craft fair that I decided to do last year. This event, it was only their second year, and they held a theme every single month, at least once a month on Thursday night. Now I kind of thought this one would be like such a good one to do because the booth cost was very low, and I only had a single booth and just planned on bringing like a few of my items, not totally everything. And it was nice that this was on a Thursday night because I could still go to the lake that weekend. So the first Night of Bazaar was held on June 20th. The theme was Renaissance. It was actually like super cool to like see everyone dress up and the music that they were playing, and it was just an overall like a good vibe. Like I mentioned before, I had a single booth at this one and it was only $60. I spent a total of 4 hours there and I ended up making $476.30, which brings our hourly wage to $119.08. So a little bit about this craft fair is that I only brought my crochet stuff. I did not bring my crew necks or t-shirts or tote bags, whatever it may be. I only brought things that I had crocheted, so like my assorted mystery car buddies, the puff flower mirrors, crochet flowers, car charm. I did bring some of the crochet bags that I made. And so for this being my first time bringing only my crochet stuff, I thought it was so good, and then it went very well. Our hourly wage is actually pretty good too, making over $100 for a one-day event that's only 4 hours long. I do plan to do this event this summer, and a little bit later I will explain why, but I will only be bringing my smaller items. On to number 4, that was Minneapolis Pride. This was held from June 29th to June 30th. It's a 2-day event, and I had a single booth again this year, and that cost me $585.46. I got a single booth again because that's all they had left. I don't know why, but I applied late again last year, and I'm just grateful to even be able to get into that one because it is very hard to get into. And all they had was a single booth left, and so I took it, obviously. Little spoiler alert, I applied again this year on time, and I have a double booth this year, which is very, very exciting. So the total time spent at this one was 17 hours, and I ended up making $10,276.03, which brings us to $104.47 per hour. But I did have expenses, y'all. My expenses were $1,113.82. Mind you, just my hotel was $679, and the hotel was so expensive because I just decided that I was going to stay at the hotel that's like right by the park, because I was able just to park my car and my trailer up in the little parking garage, and I was able to walk to the event every single day. And my first year doing this one, I had a hotel that was like a little bit away. It was about a 15-minute drive, and I took an Uber every single day, and I felt like that kind of just added on to my expenses more than paying for like a little bit pricier hotel. Because if I look back at 2023, my hotel was $450. So I thought it was worth it paying a little bit extra for a hotel closer to the park than one that was a little bit further away and having to take an Uber. Pride has a special place in my heart. I absolutely love doing this one every single year. It's always so good to me, and every year I have literally sold out of all my apparel. And when I say like sold out, I mean like I had maybe 1 or 2 left of each single design that I had brought, and I kid you not, I brought double of what I had the first year, and it still was not enough. And so I'm starting prep already right now. Mind you, we are currently in April, and this is not until June, and I'm starting prep for that craft fair right now. Don't get me wrong, I love selling out and kind of having nothing really to bring home, but it also sucks because typically it happens on like the first day, and the second day it's already so picked over, and so you kind of just don't make as much, or you're losing potential on making more. And I would rather have way too much inventory than not having enough. On to our fifth one of the year. It was the Downtown Fargo Street Fair. This one is held July 18th to July 20th, and this is a 3-day event. My booth fee for this one costed $850.81, and I had a double booth at this one, by the way. I spent a total of 29 hours here, and I made $10,884.40. That brings our average to $375.32. I do plan to do this one again this summer. This will actually be my 5th year doing the Fargo Street Fair, and as I have mentioned in the past, it's another hard one to kind of get into. And even though like it always rains at least one day, it's still so much fun. It's hot though. It's long hours. I am exhausted for a week after, but I think my numbers can justify why I keep going back every year. On to our sixth one of the year. It was the Red River Market. This is a little farmer's market that is held every Saturday typically in my town, but it had to be put on a Sunday last year, July 21st, because it was happening right after the Fargo Street Fair. And what's really funny about this one is that I have been on the wait list for about a year to try this one out, and they actually had a cancellation, and so on the last day of the Fargo Street Fair, they emailed me asking if I wanted to do the Red River Market the following day. And this is kind of like the type that if you turn them down, they're not probably gonna ask again. And so I decided to do it. And it actually was not that bad, but a lot of my inventory was very picked over from the Fargo Street Fair. And so I only ended up having a single booth, and it was $70. In total, it was 4 hours long, and I made $297.78, which is an average of $74.45. Again, this is not absolutely terrible, but I can just vividly remember that there's absolutely like no one shopping in general because the Fargo Street Fair literally just got done, and so people weren't really in the shopping mood, and if they were coming, they were literally just coming for the vegetables. So that kind of sucked, but I did sign up to potentially do this one again. Number 7 for 2024 markets was Night at Bazaar. Like I said earlier, this is held once a month on a Thursday, and this one was on July 25th. The theme for this one was circus, and let's just say it was a circus because it was very, very windy, and I couldn't have my tent up, and so I just hated how my booth looked. I just feel like whenever I do an outdoor event and I don't have a tent up, my booth just looks so stupid. But for a single booth, it was $60, and we were there for a total of 4 hours, which we ended up making $483.45. That means that our hourly was $120.86. Again, not too bad for a one-day event, making over $100 an hour. But I think at this one, I decided to bring my apparel, and so you think that it would kind of do like maybe like a little bit better, but the weather conditions just was not cooperating correctly that day, and I don't really blame people for really not sticking there for a long time. Number 8 was also another Night at Bazaar. This was held on August 8th. The theme for this one was Sunset and the Riverfront, and this was actually in Moorhead this time. The past ones were in Fargo, by the way, on Broadway. Again, my booth fee was $60 for a single booth, but this night it was only 3 hours long, and I ended up making $446.83, which brings our hourly wage to $148.94. I do have like little notes here that says not the best weather and very slow, but if you're looking at the stats, it was actually a pretty decent night. I promise you, we are almost done, but our 9th one of the year was the Grand Forks Street Fair. This was held on August 23rd to the 24th, and I had a double booth at this one, and it cost me $382.50. The total time spent there was 18 hours, and it ended up making $5,017.58, which is an average hourly wage of $278.75. I did obviously have expenses for this craft fair, and in total I only ended up spending $396.45. My hotel was a majority of that, and it was $219.20. I also forgot to mention at the beginning of this video that a majority of the craft fairs that I do them by myself. The year prior I would have my sister come with me to a lot of them, but she ended up fostering and adopting a little boy last year, and so she just didn't have as much time to help me. My nephew does come to the pretty big ones with me, like Fargo Street Fair, Pride, and I think they came to a couple of the big one events. But for the majority, I do all of these by myself, and so the expenses more than likely aren't as high usually. But Grand Forks was pretty good. It was a good event. I remember it being beautiful out, a little hot at times, but I stayed cool with my solar powered fans, and I believe I was right across from like a coffee shop, and that was super nice because I was able to like go in and get a coffee whenever I want iced coffee, use their restroom. It was just like an overall like a good vibe. I really loved the neighbors that were behind me. Overall, it was a good event. There's not really much to say about it. So moving on to number 10 was the Little Falls Arts and Crafts Fair, which was held September 7th to the 8th. I had a single booth at this one, and it cost me $280, and this was a total of 17 hours long. I did end up making $2,829.12, which is an average of $166.42 an hour. I did have expenses for this one, which came to $590.65, my hotel being $353.06 of that. This one, it was so boring. I just remember literally being bored out of my mind and not knowing kind of what to do, because what sucked about my booth placement is that I was kind of right at the beginning of where people park and they're walking in, and so typically like people don't want to buy like right off the bat. And so a lot of people were telling me like, oh, I'll be back, and I'm like, okay. And they would leave, and when they would be done and come back out my way to go back to their car, they already spent their money, they don't want to spend more. And so I think it was like really just my booth placement that did me dirty on this fair. It also was very spread out, like all over the place, spread out, all over the town. And I think if they condensed it a bit more, it would be better so then people aren't like really driving to like each booth. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna be doing this one this year, just because last year it was so rough and I stayed about 20 minutes out of town, because Little Falls is a pretty small town, and there's a town called Brainerd, I think that's like 20 minutes north of it, and that's where I stayed. Also, y'all, like I don't put, like for the hours, I don't put in how long I like took to set up or drive time, tear down, anything like that. It's literally just the event hours. I forgot to mention for the Grand Forks Street Fair, I will be returning this year. Number 11 was Night of Bazaar, and this was held on September 19th. I had a single booth again, and it was only $60. It was a total of 4 hours this time, and I made $0. Now you're probably like, Brenna, why'd you make no money? That is because of the wind. You guys, where I live, it is so windy all the time. Whenever it's not windy, it's a fabulous day, whether it's hot or cold. Like, it's a great day when there's no wind whatsoever. But I live in a valley, and it's always so windy. And so as I was setting up, I actually had help from Cole this time. As we were setting up, my items were blowing over, tipping. I ended up ruining a couple trucker hats, some apparel, like crew necks and I believe some t-shirts. My crochet flowers were falling over and I just felt like my tent was gonna go flying, even though I have, I believe, like 70 pounds on each leg. And for my mental health, I could not do it. I just kind of like it wasn't going to be worth it, and this was like the time when like my anxiety was getting really bad too. And so I went up to the event organizer and I just told her that I just couldn't do it and that I needed to do what was best for my products and my mental health, and they were very kind and sweet about it, and they said we totally understand. Also, this event was 1 week prior to my wedding. Not that I have to justify it, but that's why my anxiety was getting really bad. And I couldn't even tell you what the theme of this one was. I don't remember, and it wasn't written on my little notebook. But if I do this event again this year, I plan to scale down my products that I bring to it, and I also just plan to make sure that everything is like very, very weighed down. I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I am going to be doing with my booth. We are going to be switching it up this year and I'm so excited. I think it's just going to take my booth to like the next level and it's going to feel even more like a storefront. Last two. Our 12th one of the year was the big one in Fargo, and this was October 25th to the 26th. I had a double booth at this one and it was $463.50. In total, I spent 18 hours at this craft fair and ended up making $3,270.33, which equals $181.69 per hour. Not the absolute best numbers that I want to hear, but is it the worst? No, but I think this helped that it was in my town, so like I was at home and I didn't have to have a hotel or really any expenses. Now if I had expenses, I'd be like, oh gosh, that was okay, not the best, but you know, it could have been worse. And on to our last craft fair of 2024 was the big one in Minot, and this was November 1st to the 2nd. I had a double booth and it was $329.60. I spent a total of 18 hours there and I ended up making $2,668.33, which means our hourly wage was $148.24. And I did have expenses for this one because it is 4.5 hours away from where I live. And in total for expenses, I only spent $300 because my hotel was only $150.35. Like I have said earlier, I typically like multiple day events to at least hit $200 per hour. That justifies to me whether the market was worth it or not. Even though I made $148, it's towards the end of the year when people are kind of just trying to save their money and they're waiting for Black Friday. So I didn't think it was actually that bad. Alrighty, now for the overall analytics of 2024 markets. In total, I ended up doing 13 events, and my total expenses for the entire year going to craft fairs was $2,980.31. This includes booth fee, hotel, food, and anything else. But in total of what I made, I ended up making $41,744.05. My average per hour was $262.54, and my total time spent at events was 159 hours. My total spending on just hotels was $1,588. So my overall total for what I made for the year, minus my expenses of course, was $38,763.74. That was a little under half of what I made in total for last year for my business. So this is a sign that if you are not doing in-person events like craft fairs, markets, whatever you want to call them, I highly recommend at least trying a few out. You're gonna find some that are duds and some that are literally gold mines, and trust me, it will help take your business to the next level. I love doing craft fairs because I'm able to get my business out there to more people that may not be seeing it online. And a lot of people do like to shop in person because they're actually able to see the items, feel them, look at them, whatever it may be, because not a lot of people want to order stuff online and have it come in and not be up to the quality or standards that they thought it was. So that is everything for 2024 market recap. I'm so excited to get going on the 2025 markets. We actually have one coming up in a few days, and I'm just really hoping that this year goes just as well, if not better than last year. If you are curious if I am coming to a market near you, I do have a little tab on my website that says market schedule that you can check out, and you will know where I will be, when I will be, and the times of the event. Alrighty, I'm gonna end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd appreciate if you gave it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys!